Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Let's Have a Pint. Today we have Go West IPA from Anchor Brewing Company. It is an American style IPA, 6.7% alcohol by volume, 75 IBUs. The description on Untappd reads, made with two-row pale barley malt and dry hopped with a unique blend of 4 American hops. Its mouth-wateringly complex aromas of citrus, pine, and the tropics, spiky bitterness, gleaming golden color, and clean finish unite to create this singularly 24-karat IPA. I have never had this one. There's a closer look at the bottle. Alright, sorry about that. I'm back. So let's see, does this say... Oh yeah, this is different. America's first craft brewery led the modern revival of dry hopped handmade ales. Fast forward to Go West IPA, made with two-row barley malt and dry hopped with unique blend of 4 American hops. Its mouthwateringly complex aromas of citrus, pine, and the tropics, spiky bitterness, gleaming golden color, and clean finish unite to create this singularly 24-karat IPA. Go West, where the impossible is possible. The California Gold Rush compelled thousands to go west to see the elephant, a metaphor for the doggedly optimistic risk-taking linked then and now with America's intensified pursuit of happiness. As early as 1849, India Pale Ale, prepared by British brewers for export to India by adding dry hops to barrels of hoppy ale, was also going west from England around the Horn to San Francisco in 1975. Anchor... Oh, so I read it from second half to the first half. Anyways. Alright. This thing has an amazing amount of head. Right now I think we're sitting... Oh, we're well over 3. We're four fingers right now is what we are on. Let's see if we can't get it all in here right now. We are on the drink. That is. Come on. We're right there. Come on. We got it. We got it. That's not spilling over now. Alright. I love the color on this. Right. Just seeing it right here without the light. Oh yeah, that's a very light colored IPA. I'm pretty excited about this one. I don't know why I'm so excited about it, but I am. The beers I've had from Anchor are their main offering, their steam beer. I've had their summer beer. I've also had their... Another one that I really like from them, but although I didn't like as much recently, was their holiday beer, the winter seasonal. I've had their coffee porter, which was amazing. I wish I would have got it for a review, but I drank it just before I started doing this. So, anyways. So, and with 75 IBUs, I should get a fair amount of bitterness out of this. I'm not getting too much on the nose here. I definitely get the pine. I'm not getting much for citrus or tropics. I'm getting the citrus now that it's going down further. Let's see if I'll get the tropics part out of here. No, a lot of pine, a fair amount of citrus in the smell, and that is a lot of head to work through on this beer. Apparently this was one I had to pour at a 45-degree angle the whole way. But that's okay, we're not afraid of a little head. So it's fairly light-bodied. Not overly carbonated, pretty light-bodied though. For the most part, I really like light-bodied IPAs with a lot of bitterness. I'm not as big on more fuller-bodied IPAs, especially the ones with less bitterness, which typically that's what it's going to be, because I believe it's the malt that gives it the body, the heaviness, if it's heavy or light. I don't dislike it, I like it. A lot of bitterness. A small amount of citrus. I can't pick out where the citrus is though. A little bit of pine. I think the pine's more up front. Pine is on the front of the palate. The citrus is more towards the back of the palate. It's definitely bitterness forward. A lot of bitterness. You get a little bit of the pine up front and a little bit of the citrus at the back. At least that's what I get. The moment it hits your mouth, big burst of bitterness. But it fades away pretty quickly, actually. I don't think there's any bitterness, but I don't know if it's exactly the moment it, I don't know if it's the exact moment that you swallow, that the bitterness just goes away completely, or if it's a little bit before. I think it's the exact moment that you swallow the beer down that the bitterness just gone, which I do not mind that in an IPA. Like I said, I'm not the biggest hophead. I do enjoy IPAs, but as I have said many times, two things I have said many times. The market is very much oversaturated with IPAs, and look at that. I love that. But yeah, it just annoys me so much. I'm looking at what I have in the fridge, and for the most part it's IPAs. Like, I have a few cans of Oberon from Bill's. I have a few different. I have like 2 different sours in there. I have a raspberry wheat. Uh, I have another coffee bender in there, and another even more Jesus. Pretty much everything besides those, pale ale or IPA. I think I've probably got 15 different IPAs still sitting in that fridge. And I mean, I don't dislike IPAs, but I would have to say, by far, most of the new beers I try are IPAs. And I'm a little disappointed by that. And I think IPAs would be higher up on my list. They wouldn't be in my top 5. But I feel like they'd be higher up on the list if the market wasn't so incredibly oversaturated with IPAs. But I can't hate them. I can't. When they're made well, IPAs are one of the most delicious, most full-bodied, hi Arya, not full-bodied, but full-flavored styles out there. And it definitely has that kick, and I like a kick in a beer. But I would be curious to count up how many different IPAs I've had. Just, and of other styles, and see how out of whack it is. How many, like, maybe I've had 100 more IPAs than anything else. Don't think that would surprise me in the slightest if I counted up all the different beers I've had. And out of the, like, 800 I've had, if, like, 300 of them were, yeah, but 803 different beers, and I would not be surprised if like 300 of them were IPAs. And I honestly try to avoid IPAs at this point because, like I said, the market is so incredibly oversaturated with IPAs. That even trying to avoid them, you could still end up with more than half of your fridge as IPAs. And unless it's a very rare, or very sought after, or something I really, really want to try, when I go out, I almost never have an IPA. Because when I'm at home, 50% of what I'm going to have is IPA. I understand I bitch a lot about IPAs. But don't get me wrong, there are some damn good IPAs, and I think that the fact that it's oversaturated, the market is so oversaturated, it means that those that are really good and are shining through, like 60 Minute or Stone IPA, are for me locally Fairy Nectar. The fact that in an oversaturated market, in an oversaturated style, at least in an oversaturated style, if you're still shining through and you're up above all the competition, I think that shows just how well you're making that beer. 60 Minute is one of my top 5 favorite IPAs, and Stone is up there as well. Same with the locally Fairy Nectar. This is not going to get in there, but it'll definitely be a top 20 IPA I've ever had. Untapped has it as a 3.57. And looking at most of these reviews, like the first two, the first one there is 2.75, then it's 3.25, and then we got a 3.5, and then a 2.5, And then we finally get into some couple higher ratings. And then it kind of drops off again. Now back down 3-star, 2.75, 3-star. And I don't understand how you could rate it so low. I mean, I understand this is all based on individual palates, but this is a really good example of the style. If you do not like IPAs, why are you going to drink this? And if you like IPAs, I'd really like to know if anybody has had this, disliked it, why they disliked it. Because if you enjoy IPAs, I don't see why you would not like this one. This is... I might actually say this is one of my top 10 favorite IPAs. And I don't think I've actually had 300 different IPAs out of the 800 beers I've had. But I also wouldn't be too surprised if it's like 200 of them. And to be able to say that you brew a top 10 IPA for any individual who's had, say, 200 different examples of the style, it's a pretty big kudos. It might not hold weight like somebody who is well known. My opinion on that isn't going to hold as much weight as somebody who's very well known and is going to drive people to Anchor or really drive people to go out and buy this beer. But I think they would feel like it's a pretty big kudos. And I think they were fairly late getting into the IPA market, because I don't remember seeing an Anchor IPA until like 5 years after the craze began. But now you scroll down the list of their beers and it's their fourth one on the list as their Anchor IPA, which actually I think gets a 3.48. It gets it gets a little bit lower rating than the Go West IPA. I certainly will not be afraid to try their Anchor IPA after having this Go West IPA. I love the elephant. But honestly, when I think beer and elephant, I think you know who I think of. And it's not Anchor. As much as I really enjoy every Anchor beer I've ever had, it's not them. But yeah, I won't be afraid to pick up the other one. It kind of feels like in a market that is oversaturated, and I've said that a million times already, even in just this video. But a good quality IPA is kind of in the hands of a few different breweries. Like, when Dogfish Head comes out with an IPA, it's going to be good. When Stone does, it's more than likely going to be good. They seem to have 5 or 10 on the market at any one time. But it seems like it's in those select breweries that make the high quality IPAs, and usually everybody else just makes your base level. Like, yeah, it's good, but I'm not crazy about it. I think I might have to look at Anchor as one of those breweries that makes a really, really well-crafted IPA. As you can see, I'm actually going to finish this in the video. Or in the episode. Clean glass. Well, not exactly clean, but I'm gonna get the little bit left there. But yeah, I drank that in 17 minutes. I said earlier it was going to be at least a 4-star IPA. I'm thinking I might rate that 4.5. That was incredibly delicious to me. And I really wish Anchor made cans. I bet you this would be very good in can. Anyways, I said 4.5. We've had a good conversation. We had not really a pint, but we had a beer. Until the next episode, Prost.